So, welcome everyone to the first episode of the Journeymen Podcast. And we wanted to begin by sharing with you all in this episode how this came about, how we came to be sat together, beginning this journey of our podcast adventure with you all. So, the three of us men met on a ongoing leadership training that we're all a part of, and we were gathered for a weekend in the Southern Cairngorms in Scotland a couple of months ago. And as part of that weekend, we were given a mission to come together as a small group and explore what synergistically might arise between us. So the three of us went for a walk in the land, and we found ourselves just naturally sharing stories of our life journey, and we decided to, during that walk, each of us decided to gather some element from nature that spoke to us, that represented to us some element of what was arising between us, what was coming together. So then as the weekend went on, we were asked to create an offering for the other members of the gathering, and we decided, the three of us, that what felt most natural and inspiring to us was to come together around a fire in the evening, and we found ourselves sharing stories, and deepening into our life's journey, and what we'd each gathered from that. And in a very organic way, from that experience, we felt inspired to explore that further. And something which occurred to us as we kind of deepened into that was the different cultural stories that we carry, and some very interesting overlapping threads and themes to be explored within that. So we all felt inspired to create something real in the world from this coming together. So that was the inspiration for the podcast that you're now listening to. So thank you for joining us for this first episode. We're really glad that you're here. And we're going to share a bit more about that collective combined symbol that we created on that first weekend together, on our walk in nature, and explore some of the themes, some of the meanings that arose to each of us during that experience. So I hope that gives you a flavour of what's to come in our first episode. So over to you, Connor, if you'd like to speak to the symbol that you gathered during our first time together.
Thanks, Liam, for that wonderful introduction. I remember being in the hills of Scotland, and the three of us walked up through the forest. We passed the lake. We went on a little adventure together. It's what the three of us have it in common, is we three like adventure, and that's part of our connection. So as we walked to the top of this hill, we walked out of the forest and past the lake up to the forest. We followed this path. We climbed over a gate. We got to an area where it was full of heather and other plants, and a beautiful view of the Scottish landscape. I really enjoy that because we have an opportunity to get to know each other and share stories, and we we share very intimate stories and personal stories. Three of us were authentic with each other. Um, and it's a really beautiful thing to be able to be open and to be authentic, to be able to be vulnerable. So when if you remember, we went to the top of the hill. We had an intention to create a symbol together. And the symbol was, in my part of the symbol was heather. I picked a piece of heather. The landscape was covered in heather. It's a Scottish moorland. And it's quite similar to my part of Ireland with the heather. But the heather, I identify with heather because it symbolizes the endurance of spirit. It's able to withstand the harsh conditions of it usually grows in the mountains, and it is able to endure the harsh weather of winter, the cold days and nights, the snow, the sleet, the darkness. And then in spring it's a dark color, and then in the spring it brightens up, and in summer it's able to endure the heat of the summer. So for me, it symbolizes the endurance of spirit. And the endurance of spirit is in everything. It permeates every part of life on this planet and other places, I'm sure, in the universe. And yeah, so no matter how many winters that happen in one's life, in my life, there's a possibility of spring and summer, autumn, winter, spring, summer. It's a cycle. So the endurance of spirit is, for me, is a cycle of winter to summer. Being able to recognize that there is winter times and there is summer times. So to take from darkness and then being able to take from darkness and take that to light. It's a bit like alchemy. So taking the lead to gold, using the lead to turn it into gold. So I look forward to our journey together. I remember we sat around the fire and told stories together and of our experiences. So for me, this podcast will be very much like that. So we will be sitting around a virtual fire. So there may be an occasion we actually sit around a fire, but we'll tell stories of our lived experience, our wisdom. So with that, I thank you all, and I look forward to our journey together. I'm very excited about what is to come, the great mystery, the great unknown. Over to you, Martin.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Connor. So I'm Martin. I'm, as you probably can hear, from Germany. So that is a very interesting group, in my opinion, we have here, which is a strength. And as the other two guys already shared, we were on the seminar, or we are still in this leadership program, and this leadership program is actually called spirit-led leadership. So it's about being led by your own spirit from inside to outside, and kind of symbol is the endurance of spirits. There's a lot of spirit stuff in it, and to me, being me, I'm a little bit like, I'm not not really just a holy man, so to speak. So for me, which is left out quite a lot in this kind of spiritual world for many people, is the humanness. Yeah, even in our program there was always this you have to a little bit the theme of keeping your humanness in check and getting more whole so that the spikes go away and all that. And then we have the sentence a lot of people know, which like we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And in my experience, there are a lot of people out there who either just focus on the first part of that sentence, being spiritual, sitting around, hugging trees, not that that's a bad thing, but only that. Or there are other people who are just focusing on the second part, being human, and ignoring that we are also spirits. And to me, it's very important to have both. That's why, as we went about sharing our stories, really deep ones, just realizing why we're sharing that we are actually coming from different cultures, I was like, okay, these tensions, these spikes, they are quite important. That's why I chose this spiky thing, which I didn't even know what it is. It just happened to lay down there. My eyes fell down. I was like, oh, that's a good symbol for having the humanness, us being humans in our whole experience and our symbol, and this energy should be here. Also, this ability to have spikes to say, hey, that there's a border, you should not cross, because in my opinion, it's very important to be spirit led, but also to really create or do something in our world where we are. You have to be human too. Otherwise, that's where the rubber meets the road. With just sitting on a stool, you have to sit quite a long time on a stool for roasted ducks to fly into your mouth. So and that's the important part for me. Also, to me, in the humanness, in us being human, that's the fun. We are in this world to experience it, in my opinion, and I can't. Personally, I think just to experience my inner world, connecting with spirit, that's not enough for me. I want to go also into the messy stuff, and having fun, making mistakes, falling down, standing up. That's part of that experience. That also speaks a bit, in my opinion, to the endurance of spirit. Otherwise, why should we need an endurance of spirit if we not also would be willing to get messy? And as I'm looking at the symbol now, I didn't realize it at the time. These little flowers which come out, the yellow ones out of that, I didn't even know it has this kind of thing. It was just a thorny little thing as I picked it up. But it's beautiful to me because it fits into the theme, which is important to me of as a human, having a human experience. It's thorns, but it's also beautiful. So there's a natural beauty in being a human and being able to not be perfect. And that's a very important part for me to bring into this whole group. And as Lane and Connor also already shared, it's about sharing lived experience. And lived experience, you don't have lived experience sitting in a monastery, basically. I mean, it's not, I like that, I did that, so it's not that I'm against it. But to me, it's very interesting. How do we manage life? By being led by our heart, by our spirit. And that's why in this podcast, I'm looking forward to just share stories, not shy away from difficult topics, but in a grown-up way. We will use our different cultures to talk about maybe even difficult things. Not maybe, we will do that. And there will be in the future, I'm quite sure that's the intention, other people coming here and we will have just talks with them, just authentic talks. And it doesn't matter if that person is just some forest worker and not even having to do anything with so-called spiritual work, but there will be a lived wisdom in it. And the other one might be a monk and share his experience being a monk in this world. And that's a human thing to do. And I would like to focus on, always want to have that aspect in here, a grounded aspect of being, hey, no matter what we do, no matter how spiritual we are, or how successful, in the end, we are all human, because that's what truly unites us over all the cultures, that we are human, and that should be celebrated in a very good way. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. And with that intention, I thank you guys for listening. You can be really curious about what to come. It will be a good ride. Can count on that. And I give over to you, Lane. Take it away.
Thanks, Martin. So, yeah, as we were on our shared walk together, as the guys have spoken to, as I was just tuning into what symbol I might bring into our shared creation, I came across a bone which spoke to me. So I picked it up, and as I was walking through the land with the guys, holding the bone in my hand, I started getting a few themes around what that bone meant to me, and a big one that arose for me was around ancestry, and we'd already been speaking a little in our sharings and our shared stories to our different cultures that we had all come from, and the different histories of those. So yeah, the bone brings up for me the theme of lineage and our ancestral history, our ancestral belonging. I'm from the northwest of England originally. That's where I grew up. I've spent a lot of my life living in various continents around the world, so I've travelled a lot. But that's the cultural context that I grew up in. My mother was born in Ireland. I had an Irish grandfather. So yeah, as I explore lineage, and how people relate to lineage in the world, yeah, many things fascinate me about that. One of the things that arises for me is about how it seems to me that people can often generate a very selective relationship to their ancestry. So, our ancestry relates to, I have a mother, I have a father, my mother has a mother and a father, my father has a mother and a father, and so it goes on back and back. How many hundreds of generations that is, I don't know, but it's a long story. And I find often that people will identify with a certain maybe aspect of their ancestral story, like perhaps, well, I'm a Celt. Well, then that for me brings up the question, well, when were you a Celt? And who were the Celts? And whenever I deepen into exploration of kind of ancestry and lineage, I find that anything that we identify as a people, well actually they were other people that had come together, and different tribes, and that there's this movement of humanity over eons of time, which really leads me to the sense that actually, we all have such a multiplicity of lineage and kind of ancestral history that there's humans have expressed through different cultures throughout time in diverse ways, different mythological contexts to their existence, different ways of relating to the earth, different ways of living in harmony with life, and so for me, exploring the theme of ancestry leads me inevitably to the notion of unity in diversity, because I feel that actually we all carry many threads within our ancestral stories, and it can be a very divisive thing, the notion of culture and ethnicity, and for me, part of the evolutionary step that's kind of needed by humanity at this time is to come to this place where we can really celebrate the diversity of all cultures and all stories and all human journeys, and recognize the underlying oneness and togetherness that we all share. So that was one theme that arose for me through just being with this bone that I'd picked up in the land. And then another thread that arose for me was around, well, what is it that really sits most deeply in our being? Like, what is it that actually, what's in our bones, so to speak? And yeah, it brought up a memory for me of a time when I was sat in a ritual. I'd just been part of a ritual for 4 or 5 days, and I was sat in a men's lodge at the end of that ritual. And the ritual had also been, there were women involved, and there was a woman's lodge in this community as well, and it had been very much a kind of shared story of the masculine and the feminine. But there was a moment towards the end of that ritual where I was sat in a men's lodge, and we received an invitation that having participated in this ritual, we were now invited, if we wished to, that we could ask to become a member of the men's lodge. And I had the most distinct experience when I heard that invitation. I remember so clearly sitting on the floor in that men's lodge, and it's like, for the first time in my life, I'd never had an experience like this before. It's like I felt something come up through the earth into my very bones and my blood. And I realized in that moment, wow, men have been sitting in men's lodges in circle around a fire, just as I was doing in that moment, for eons. Like, maybe that's one of the most ancient things that we've ever shared together. And I think that invitation touched something so deeply in me to have an opportunity to kind of rekindle that as a lived experience in this lifetime. And I love that was the thing that we chose to share together, us men, was to sit around a fire and share stories. And I think that's an ancient thing. So to me, the bone also speaks to, what's really deepest at the core of our being, because we all carry that. We all carry so much inside of us, and it might be through our lived experiences in this lifetime. It might be through cultural memory. It might be through connecting to the vastness of the cosmos and intelligence and everything that we're ultimately connected to in our true nature. And that brought up for me the importance of the sharing of authentic wisdom, because I believe every person has a story to share and some meaningful wisdom to share with the world. So that's also something that the bone represented for me. And when I tune into my ancestors now, for many years I experienced them kind of standing behind me, and then about 10 years or so ago, I experienced quite a significant shift where suddenly, just in a moment, kind of sat in a sort of meditative, reflective state, tuning into my ancestors, I suddenly saw that actually, as well as standing behind me, they were also in front of me. They were already in the hall of the ancestors. They'd walked a path already that I was actually following in their footsteps, and I was moving towards somewhere that they already were. And in exploring that as a way of relating to my ancestors, I came across some words spoken by a man who's been a very influential teacher for me over the last several years, a guy called Martin Prechtel, and he was very rooted in a Guatemalan Mayan culture for a couple of decades, and he shared that the sense that part of our purpose as a human being is to become an ancestor worth descending from, which I just found really powerful words. And when I tune into those words, that for me is not about whether we have children or not. It's about, do we participate in our life experience with life in a way that brings goodness and feeds a time beyond our own. So that's become a very powerful concept for me, and something I felt to share. And a last theme that the bone represented for me was our connection to the earth. This bone that I found that we can see in the image behind Martine. It's the bone of an animal, and also a core aspect of our nature for me is our deep connection to earth. Ultimately everything, in our physical form, that's all come from the earth. We began growing in our mother's wombs through all the nourishment that she took on board from the earth, from food, and then we've grown ourselves through eating food and living on the earth. And to me it just seems so clear that the earth is our mother, not just in some sort of esoteric way, but in a very real, physical as well as spiritual way. So the bone to me brings up our connection to the earth and our relationship with Mother Earth, and how are we living? How are we living individually? How are we living as a culture? What are the ways that humans have learned throughout various cultural experiences in various contexts throughout history? How have humans lived in awareness and in right relationship with the earth, and how are we living now culturally as a modern human culture, which I'm sure we can all witness has become very separate from that connection to earth, and very much treats the earth like a resource and a rubbish dump, and lives very much in a sort of mental realm. And how do we re-sew the threads of connection and right relationship with the earth? So that was also something that the bone brought up for me. So a few themes there that I'm sure we might explore amongst things that the guys have also spoken to, and others besides in the coming episodes. So that's what I felt to share about the symbol that I gathered during that walk together. So to close this first episode, I just felt to speak a little to what's to come, to what we collectively envision for the Journeymen podcast. So we will in coming episodes deepen into some of the themes that we've spoken to today, and many others besides, and very much the essence is around sharing of life journeys, sharing of our life journeys. I'm sure there may be guests that come and join us as the podcast evolves, and the sharing of that authentic wisdom gathered through people's life experiences. And as the guys have spoken to, something that occurred to us is that the three cultures that we are each rooted in have some very interesting, entangled, challenging histories that we feel is a very rich space that we could explore together. So we definitely look forward to kind of opening into some authentic conversations about some of the places that our cultures have come into contact over the generations. So that's about all from me for this time. So I hope you've enjoyed this beginning to our journey, and we very much look forward to sharing the next episode with you soon. Bye for now.